Hello and welcome to the show. This is episode 134 of the Meet the Farmers podcast, and I'm your host, Ben Eagle. On the show today, I'm joined by the 2021 Farmers Weekly Beef Farmer of the Year, along with his brother, Carmarthenshire-based Aled Evans. From 2015 to today, Aled's business has grown from 180 calves to 650 cattle, finishing around 325 per year. And with grassland management, a major focus of the business. As well as the cattle, Aled runs around 700 breeding ewes. And today we're going to hear a bit more about Aled's business, his approach to work-life balance, ensuring profitability, and ensuring sustainable practice to soils. Aled, it really is a pleasure having you on. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Thanks, man. Not too bad, thank you.
Good.
Enjoying this nice, crisp weather.
Absolutely. It's I was going to say, how's November been for you? Because it's been unseasonably dry out here in the east.
Yeah, we had a wet week, or very, very wet weekend right at the beginning of November, but the rest of it has been quite kind, to be honest. So yeah, it hasn't been too bad at all.
Yeah, good. Maybe tell me about your part of Carmarthenshire, first of all.
Yeah, so we're based just to the west of Carmarthen, very much a livestock area. So you're rolling green hillland, fairly green with all the rain that we have.
Yep.
We're very fortunate. We're only about 15 minutes away from the beach and then national parks to the east with the Brecon Beacons and the Preseli Mountains and Pembrokeshire National Park to the other way. So,
sounds absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
What about life growing up? How did your interest in farming begin?
Yeah, so growing up on a family farm, so dad's a farmer and then mum was a school teacher, and then I've got a younger brother, Ewan, who I'm now in business with. So a brilliant childhood, really. Just we're very fortunate on a farm to have plenty of space to run around, play in the woods, create dens, all that sort of thing. And then my uncle's a local auctioneer, so we were always surrounded with livestock, the buying and selling. Aunt's a butcher, so we all develop a bit of an interest in that final product as well. So yeah, sort of ingrained in us subconsciously, I guess. So yeah, nothing else would really touch it, to be honest.
Okay. How did your uncle get involved in the livestock market?
I think he went to university at Harper back in, must have been the 70s or something like that.
Okay.
Came back and got involved with the local livestock market.
Okay, and been with them ever since?
Yeah, I've been there ever since.
Brilliant. Let's talk about your business. When did you start your current business and what were your aims and goals going into it?
Yeah, so after sort of graduating from uni, I went to work for the Environment Agency for 10 years.
Okay.
We had the chance in 2015 to take on some of the family farms. So basically, my brother and I had to sit down and a chat how we were going to go about it, who was going to go and run it, what we wanted it to look like. And we came up with three sort of key aims that we needed it to do for us. So one was profit, the second was lifestyle, and the third was legacy. And then any business decisions that we make, they're all sort of focused around satisfying those three things. So profit was the most obvious thing because I needed to pay myself a salary, being used to having a salary before. So a salary for myself to live on,
yep,
and then money to be able to reinvest and to grow the business.
Yep.
I guess having worked off-site and with anyone working off-site, lifestyle is quite important in that having that every other weekend off, so we get a chance to refresh mentally and physically, and just having time away with family. So whether it's a couple of holidays a year or just short working weeks, that sort of thing. So that's quite an important thing. And then the legacy part of it has several different aspects. So one, we wanted to develop a team that we were proud of and to give them opportunities to progress and follow their aspirations. Two would be the environmental side of thing, anything we could do to improve on our local environment, our local community. So anything we can do to have a positive impact in that. So whether it's working with local colleges on assignments and that sort of thing, just to help back up a bit of our knowledge.
Yeah.
And just to create a business that we're really proud of, really.
Yeah. I'm sensing why you won this award now. It's like all these things. Yeah. Yeah.
We're a little bit obsessed with it, to be honest. It's probably not healthy, but
No. Do you think those 10 years away from the farm really had an impact then on your way of thinking going into the business?
Yeah, it's probably. I think I appreciate it a lot more than if I'd just come back straight from uni and then fallen into the routine of it. There's a lot more thought gone into it.
Yeah.
And then the fact that we've been able to see, I guess, whether it's management structures or dealing with people, dealing with teams, having that time away from the farm, having holidays, that sort of thing, maybe not the things that you frequently sort of associate with agriculture.
Yeah.
So it gives you a better slant on it, I think.
Yeah. And let's just look back over the last 5 or 6 years. How's the business developed since the early days?
So I guess we've been fortunate in that we're in a part of Wales where we can grow loads of grass.
Yeah.
So with that, we've been able to create a fairly low cost of production system. And then we're at a point then that once we had the system that we were happy with, we could replicate it. So we've been able to grow fairly quick in like a 5-year period. And there's probably a bit more opportunity for growth again now that we can sort of replicate the system. Probably the other really cool thing is we've been able to bring Llevon in and develop a team. So that's been quite cool as well, to give an opportunity to someone locally as well to follow their aspirations.
Absolutely. I mean, how does he find your management style and your ethos and everything that you've been talking about in terms of your approach to the business?
Yeah, so we're very, very fortunate in that he's got a similar mindset to ours. He'd spent a bit of time working out in New Zealand before coming to work with us. So he's used to that sort of grass-based and that lifestyle sort of system. So he was very, very focused on finding an opportunity where he wouldn't be working a 7-day week with no time off and long working hours. He wanted that same.
Yeah.
We work hard when we're in work. We try and have fun when we're doing it.
Yeah.
But then he's done by 5, so he's got time to socialise, play rugby, spend time with family, have weekends away, have holidays, that sort of thing. So it's a very, very aligned way of thinking. I think that makes it a good work environment to work in then, really.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned that you can obviously grow lots of grass. How else do you keep focused on keeping your costs low?
So I think everything comes back to quite a simple, boring system. So the less things in it to go wrong, the better. So in the summer months, if we can do jobs in the morning because we've created that simple, boring system, and we want to go to the beach in the afternoon, we can do it. So we won't beat ourselves up for working a shorter working day to do something like that. So we've done it by investing in initially GPS mapping the whole farm to work out land parcels and how many cattle we could carry on them. We've then invested in infrastructure so we're not moving loads and loads of fences daily. We're just moving 1 or 2 mobs, and that probably takes us like 15 minutes to do. Other than by doing that, we've been able to improve our management. It means that we can cut out and hopefully eradicate sort of artificial fertilizers. We've been able to really crank back on purchased feeds, so probably down to about 20% of what we'd do in the first year or two.
Yeah.
So it's just by having, I guess, improving my skills and the skills of the team. So by improving our management, our cost base just automatically comes down with that.
Let's talk about soil health, which is everybody's favourite subject at the moment. What are you doing, and how are you working to improve the soil on the farm?
Yeah. So we're quite fortunate. We've just become the first farm in the UK to become regeneratively certified by A Greener World. So
wow.
A big part of that is looking into soil health. So what we've done already is to create a bit of a baseline. So we've done about 5 little trial pits around the farm, looking at soil structure, worm counts, infiltration rates. And then over the next 5 years, what we're doing is looking at how our management impacts on that. So what we've done already is to sort of carry higher grass covers, so that allows a bit of a deeper rooting depth. And then we're going to see in a year's time how has that had an impact on infiltration rate. and just manage that over a 5-year period. We've bought in more diverse lays with plants with different sort of rooting depths. So again, by monitoring that infiltration rate, we can see if that's having an impact going forward. At the moment, we've switched from sort of a traditionally ploughing into a min-till system.
Okay.
But with the whole regen certification and going away from herbicides, that's probably another challenge we're going to have to look at over the next year or two, is how we can achieve that without the use of herbicides. So it might mean something like outwintering with going in with a shallow plough or something like that. So there's lots of questions at the minute, maybe without all the answers, but it's having that mindset and being open to having a go at it, really.
Yeah, I'm glad you've said that, because it might seem actually from the outside that you've actually already reached almost the holy grail in business and farming, that you've actually reached that point. You've got a great system, you've got a good team, you've got the ability to have time off, but it's always changing, and there are lots of challenges at the moment, are there anyway? But I suppose my question here is, I mean, what do you still want to achieve? And looking to the long term, where are you heading?
Yeah, it's quite interesting, isn't it? As farmers, we think we've got. I was speaking to someone the other day. They thought we had an awesome lifestyle because we had every other weekend off and a week or two away. Whereas your normal office worker want every weekend off,
yeah,
with loads of time off and flexi time or whatever. So I think we've still got another level to go in what we can aspire to with our lifestyle.
Yeah.
And the weekends we work and that sort of thing. But business development. So, like I said earlier, we've got a system we think we can replicate. So, Llifon, with his progression, we've already done a profit share and a contract rearing agreement with him on his home block. So that sort of meets some of his aspirations, but then he's also got more aspirations. So whether that's managing one of our units or hopefully managing the whole business at some point, that'd be something really, really cool.
Okay.
But something that both Ewan and I and Llifon are passionate about is getting a closer link in with our consumers. So we'd love to shorten that supply chain a little bit. We put a lot of effort into and a lot of care into getting animals through the system for a 2-year period. And historically, we've just handed that product off to someone else. So it's quite nice to have feedback direct from the consumers on eating quality. We're passionate about grass-fed products, so that's a nutritious, great product.
Yeah.
So that's something, the big focus of the next 12 to 24 months really is to develop that a little bit.
Okay. What about challenges? We're not short of them in farming over the next few years. Looking at your business specifically, what are the big ones for you?
So I guess there's been a lot of negativity about red meat in the media over the past couple of years. So we've been very, very focused on creating the best possible system that we can. So our carbon footprint to be very low compared to a national and global level. So we'd be like 6 kilos of a carbon footprint versus, I think it's something like 17 for a British piece of beef and 46 for globally.
Yeah.
So by having that focus on delivering that good, nutritious, but also being environmentally aware, that's a big thing that we can then go back to our consumers with. So that's a big focus. I guess reducing volatility. So we're trying to shorten that supply chain, having good relationships in place with whether it's restaurants or butchers. So we have a bit more control over our selling price than if we were just going into some of the bigger processors.
Yeah.
I think that's a big, big challenge. And then the other thing is, I guess, rising input costs, because we've already reduced fertilizer and feed significantly. We're probably not as exposed as most people to that. But then there's still a little challenge there. There's still work to do really to mitigate against that a little bit.
Yeah.
There's always, I guess the big thing with our system is we're a little bit exposed to nature and the weather. So if there's a drought, we have to be very, very quick on our feet to put measures in place. Or if it's wet, then we have to bring cattle into the shed for a couple of hours so they're not making a mess out of grass. So it's just adapting to the situation, really.
Yeah. What about investments, infrastructure, perhaps? Is there anything that you'd like to still invest in on farm?
Probably one of our key strengths is we don't like shiny kit. So we're the tractor salesman's nightmare. They just don't. Yeah, and the great thing is the three of us are the same. Cleveland's the same. He doesn't want to be driving something fancy as long as it starts in the morning, and less time we spend on machinery, the better, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess investment-wise, the only investment we do is investment in grazing infrastructure, because it allows us to deliver those things we want to deliver, really.
Yeah. Let's talk about that work-life balance. Return to that. You're taking every other weekend off, and I suppose what I'm going to there, when we're talking about actually people who work in other sectors, having that structured approach to working hours. Do you think it's more about that structure, or do you think it's more about the actual amount of time you need off?
It's probably a bit of both. So we're fortunate that with Iwan still working off-site, he can bring a bit of a corporate side into it. So we'd have sort of a management meeting every quarter, where we'd have an agenda and we'd work through things, and then we have a plan and a timeline for the next quarter, the next 12 months. So I think by having that, we're very, very focused in what we do day to day.
Yeah.
Whereas before, you can be quite guilty of just having a conversation and discussing stuff all the time, and then nothing gets done. Whereas by having structure, we're following something. The time we're in work, we're in work. And what Cleveland said was, having worked in New Zealand to working with us, we get through a lot of work in a day. We're very, very efficient. But then at 5 o'clock, we know we're done, and we can go and do whatever we want to do socially or with family.
Yeah.
Same thing on the weekend. By having that time, you're just a lot more refreshed coming back on the Monday.
Yeah.
Whereas when we probably started out, we were working longer working weeks, not being efficient with it. We were spending less time on planning because we were too busy doing other things, and then it tends to spiral a little bit.
Yeah. Did you do that? Did you have that approach right the way from day dot?
No.
I'm glad you said that. No. Okay.
I guess at the start, you wanted to work hard to build the business. You wanted to prove yourself. You wanted to develop something fairly quickly.
Yeah.
No, so it's something that's probably developed a few years into it, to be honest.
Okay, that's interesting, because actually, I think about, and I'm so glad that you've had that, you've been open about that as well, and also to actually hear your approach is really refreshing, because even like 5 years ago when I started this podcast, I don't think I'd speak to anyone who would actually talk about that. I think that there has been a real shift.
I think that there's a long way to go. I think it's refreshing to hear some people starting to talk about it. So you're not alienated for talking about lifestyle.
Yeah.
But like I said, there's a long way to go, I think, as well.
Yeah. We always finish the show with the same two questions. The first is, if you have a message for the public, any message, what would it be?
It's probably to be curious. So when they're eating out or going to the local butcher or wherever, asking where the produce comes from, and the production system. I think that's the great way of driving improvements in our production system and having an environmental impact, is to have the consumer ask those questions, and then that drives the standards. I think that's massively important. Like I said, with our carbon footprint being 6 compared to a global average of 46, you can have a big environmental impact just by being mindful of what you eat.
Yeah. And finally, a message for your fellow farmers, which is always the hard one.
Yeah, it's probably might sound a bit of a stupid one, but know your cost of production, and by having a big focus on what you're doing during your working week, you can be a lot more present with your family and friends during your downtime. Yeah, I think that's a really, really important one as well.
I think that's two fantastic bits of advice. Yeah. That is all we have time for. But no, thank you so much, Alan, for coming on the show. It's been a real privilege and great to hear your approach to business. Next time, I'll be heading to Suffolk to speak to the Farmers Weekly's Farmer of the Year, Edward Vipond. So I hope you can join me then. But until then, have a great week.